Hi, welcome to my review of the KNZ Soundflux. I was actually going to make this review much earlier, but this particular earbud that I have is actually the pre-updated version, so I did have to wait for KNZ to send me the updated version before I can listen to them and give you my impressions of them. I've been using this earbud with my Galaxy S8, but I also did try them with my Sony MP3 player just to see if there's any difference between the between Bluetooth 4.2 and Bluetooth 5.0. The difference is not much, so all the impressions you'll be hearing here is actually based on this earbud connecting to the phone. With that said, I have been unable to connect this earbud via AAC to the phone. So again, the test is primarily done with this earbud connected via SBC. Okay, I'm also going to explain about the two main gripes about the battery on these earbuds in this video. So if you're interested in explanation, please stay until the end of the video for my take on those issues. And if this video were to desync later on around 2 minutes plus, please forgive me, because unfortunately this has something to do with the camera, which is my S8. So right, let's start with the case. First off, I think the size is actually just nice. I think that this is just small enough that you can fit them into your pocket without feeling too bulky. But unfortunately, these are gonna show up quite badly because of the sharp edges. So people are definitely gonna know that you have this charging case inside your pocket. As you can see, the charging case power button is located right here, and as you can see, they protrude quite a bit. So this makes it very easy to press this button by accident, and there's been a few times where I was trying to remove this case from the pocket and I accidentally turned the earbuds on. Right, the lid closed quite firmly, but not firm enough to prevent accidentally opening while pulling them out of the pocket. But the good thing is that there's actually magnets inside the case to hold the earbuds in, and they actually hold the earbud in place quite well, so they won't fall out randomly. Another good thing about the case is that it's actually deep enough for you to use the earbuds with the foam tips. So if you have foam tips that's like this, you can actually install them on the earbud and still put them inside the charging case. This particular version is the rounder short version, but I'm sure that the longer comply versions fit in just fine. Unfortunately, you are not able to use the ear hooks with the charging case. So if you are using the ear hook, you have to remove them every time you want to put this earbud back into the charging case. KNZ says that the Soundflux has over 24 hours of use with the charging case, but I found out that the case actually loses power over time. I've left them alone for about 4 days, waiting for my updated pair, and I charged them about 2 or 3 times before I noticed that the case actually died. With that said, the battery indicators on this is not exactly the easiest to read, because it flashes according to the power that they have. So as you can see, it flashes 4 times for 100%, 3 times for 75%, 2 times for 50%, so on and so forth. Not exactly the easiest to read. Okay, so as for the earbuds themselves, they're actually small and light, so it's very easy to leave them in your ears as you walk about. The default silicone ear tips is actually okay. They don't do a good job at isolating sound that much, so external noise still seep in even if you insert them all the way into your ears. The phone ear tips actually does a much better job at dampening the outside noise if you were to install them. And for comfort wise, these silicone tips are okay for me since the earbuds are light and they don't tuck down that much, but I still get sore ears after wearing them for about 2.5 hours. The foam tips on the other hand is much more comfortable, but again, with the foam tips, they do stick out a lot, so it's up to you to choose whether you want to use the foam tips or not. And these particular foam tips that I use are actually some cheap Chinese version, and they have a 5mm white ball, in case you want to know. Right, connection is actually quite simple. So all I have to do is just pull them out of the case and they'll start connecting. It will flash a blue and red light to show that they are trying to connect to any device. Okay, so when you first pull them out of the charging case, they'll connect to each other first, before they connect to an external device. So in any case, it will take the whole process will take about 4 to 5 seconds. So after that, this earbud will connect to your phone and you can start playing music with them. Turning them off is a bit more troublesome, as they don't seem to turn themselves off reliably when you put them back into the case. There's a few times where I actually put them into the case and realized 30 minutes later that they are actually still connected to my phone. So the most reliable way is actually just to hold on this button for 3 seconds, and you'll see a red light being shown. That's to say that they have shut down and you can put them back into the case. About their battery life, my use for them is usually about 2.5 hours before the right earpiece start indicating there's low battery. So the initial 4 hours, runtime is inaccurate. KNZ has actually updated their story page to include this issue, and they plan to update these earbuds somewhere in the future. As for recharging them from low battery to full, it takes roughly about 30 minutes. I didn't exactly keep track of the exact time, but I left them in the charging case on my keyboard for about 2 days, and every now and then I will actually see the left and right earbuds charging themselves. I believe it has something to do with the earbud standby mode consuming power, and wherever the power dips below a certain level, the case would start to charge them automatically. I think this is why the case would run out of power even if you were to leave them alone. Right, sound-wise, I think that they are decent for about $70. Decent as in they are good, just that there's some flaw that is weird for earbuds around this price range. My first impression of them is that the earbud sounds a little bit veiled, is that the highs are a bit muffled, and they do have quite a bit of bass despite being in balanced mode. But after listening to them a few more times, they actually do sound nice and do excel with certain genres of music. Soundstage is about average. I think if you were to compare this with the AKG earpiece that comes with S8, that those earpieces will actually sound a little bit better. Not by much, but the difference is there. These earbuds are better at imaging forward and backwards than side to side. I will include the list of songs that I used in this review in the info section below, so if you are interested in what type of music that I've used to listen to this earbud with, it's in the info section below. Okay, first, the bass is good. Not too much rumbling bass, but it's the fast and snappy kind that you can expect from the two small drivers right here. In some cases, the bass is actually quite overwhelming to the point that it sounds bloated and it bleeds a little bit into the vocals and instruments, but that depends on the song that you're listening to. You can hear the snare and bass drum quite well, and so songs like DragonForce Through the Fires and Flames, you can actually hear the drums beating quite clearly with the electrical guitars going on. Mids and vocals are good but a bit recessed, simply because of the bass sometimes spilling over into the mids, drowning them out a bit. Piano sounds very good with this, with each note impacting quite strongly and with very good details. And so does acoustic guitar, with you can hear quite a lot of details inside the strings with them for wireless earbuds. But what I found is that there's some sort of static/compression noise with female vocals on my earbuds. So I'm not too sure what is causing this static. I'm not too sure whether it's a song, it's the earbud, or my phone itself. How obvious it is actually depends on the song itself, but it is there on most of the songs with female vocals. So that's one of the things to note. Back to the impressions, the highs are nice and not piercing. So while they do sound very interesting, they don't really sparkle that much. So to certain ears they might sound a bit rolled off. The nice thing about having more than one drivers in a earbud is that the song doesn't sound too thin on busier songs, on songs such as the DragonForce, as previously mentioned. Hi-hats and cymbals sounds okay, not too piercing, but they do stand out and they do let you know that they are there. Violin doesn't sound as sharp as the other earpiece as well, but they do have presence. So I think that this particular tuning is actually quite nice to prevent violins from sounding too piercing on certain earbuds. Oh, sorry, on certain songs. Okay, so move on to the EQ a bit. I've been testing these earbuds mainly on the balanced EQ, but I did give enhanced bass and vocal EQ a try, and these are my impressions of them. The enhanced bass bloats the bass too much in my opinion, and in this EQ, the bass impacts much harder and it booms a lot more. While this mode is occasionally fun if you want to listen to some bass heavy track, this mode does drowns out the vocal and instrument, and I believe that they actually suppress the highs and mids a bit. So you're essentially getting a lot more bloated bass for less details. Not my personal choice for them. I'll avoid them, if that's my personal preference. So for vocal EQ on the other hand, seems to do the opposite. The bass is actually softened quite a bit while the mids and highs are slightly boosted. So there's a lot less of the booming effect of the bass, and you can hear the instruments and vocals a little bit more. So let me get to some of the features of these earbuds. Sound pass-through is actually a nice feature, but it's a bit weird in its implementation. For instance, you cannot change the volume on the pass-through. So stuff like crowd chatters will actually come in quite loud when you're playing music with this earbud. In fact, the crowd chatter is actually louder in this earbud than in real life. And this earbud's external mic picks up everything. So I have to have my music at about 70% phone volume before I can start drowning out the crowd noises. But then again, I suppose that is the feature doing its job. There's also a very small delay in the pass-through mode, about slightly less than 15 milliseconds. This lag between the external noise and the sound playing in the earbuds is not huge, but you can detect that it's there. Also, I have experienced the sound cutting off while in sound pass-through mode. It sounds as if they just cut off for a moment before before coming back. And my impression is that you can actually hear a wind noise if you're walking, or if you're in a very windy street and you're walking down while with these earbuds on. So let me try to confirm the sound pass mode on before I carry on to the next section. Alright, so for the next section, I would actually like to demo one of the weird bugs that I found with the sound pass mode. Is that when you activate the sound pass mode, you can actually get some sort of weird feedback with them if you were to block the external microphone. So this is what happened. The external microphone is located right here, and this is what happened if you were to actually block the external microphone. I'm going to do it for both and put them to the side to let you hear the weird glitch that I found with them. I hope you can hear the chirping noise. This chirping noise seems to be some sort of feedback with the sound pass mode, and seems to only happen with the right earbuds. So in case you were to hear this weird feedback mode, do know that that's because your external microphone is being blocked. So waterproofing seems to work just fine. Since I got two pairs of them, I actually took the pre-updated pair as a test unit and brought them into the shower with me. And while in the shower, the connection is actually good despite having being surrounded and drizzled with water. And sound pass-through mode works as well. Until the water gets into one of the external microphone, then you get that weird chirping feedback I was mentioning earlier. Do note that there is actually a bass relief hole near the inside of the earbud right here. I believe you can see it. And this, although the motherboard is actually nano coated so that it's waterproof, I'm not too sure whether the battery and the drivers underwent the same coating as well. So I'll try not to get water in via this hole. And next, reception. I think the signal reception is nice. Does have some weakness to it. Connections has been solid with them so far. I didn't experience them dropping signals or lagging too much. And I did a distance test and I got to about 13 meters or about 40 feet with them, and the signal is still very strong and I didn't drop any connections. But the connections between the earbud is not that good. So imagine if you were to have them inside your ears and you were to cup them with the palm of your hands, you can actually drop the signal so much that the left earbud loses signal to the right earbud. But removing your hands will get them to connect within half a second to 1 second. Right, latency wise, it's about average for SPC earbuds. So that means there's about 100 millisecond delay. You can actually see the actor's mouth moving before the voice comes through the earbud, and with gunshot you can see the gun recoiling before you hear the actual shot. Other thing to note is that this earbud is not exactly loud, so I have to keep them at about 100% low earbud volume and about 70% phone volume in order to drown out the metro noises. With that said, that means that the average battery life of this earbud is about 2.5 hours, as I previously mentioned, rather than the 4 hours as stated by KNZ previously. Again, KNZ mentioned that they are working on a potential update for this. But if you are those who doesn't blast their music, or you put your earbuds back into the charging case after every use, then I think you're fine. And the earbud does make announcement as well. So if someone is calling this earbud, actually announce the name that you have stored inside your phone. But this announcement voice is actually quite soft. And if I would have a song playing at 70% volume, I cannot really pick up the announcement of the earbuds. And I'm pretty sure I'm correct with this, but this earbud can only actively connect to one device at a time if you want stereo. Okay, because the thing is that each of these earbuds is capable of 2 connections, but the left and right connections counts as 1 connection. So that means that there's only 1 connection left to whatever device. So if you want both earbuds to connect to 2 independent devices simultaneously, you have to pair them as 2 individual devices. Okay, so my thoughts when it comes to this earbud is that when I backed this earbud, I thought that they were very promising. In fact, that I thought this earbud is actually the more promising of the 2 earbuds that I backed. The other one being the Izo Air. To the extent, I think it's actually still true. This earbud sounds good. In fact, they sound amazing on certain types of track, such as instrumental tracks, and they have good mids and highs. I would recommend them very, very quickly, if not for that slight static/noise that I found in the mids and vocals. Again, I'm not too sure whether the issue is with my phone or with the earbuds, so I'm gonna email KNZ to try to get some answers out of them, and hopefully write them down in the comments below. Right, so I'm gonna get to the 2 gripes that I saw quite commonly on Indiegogo regarding the battery life of these earbuds. The first gripe is that the right earbud actually dies way sooner than the left earbuds. This has everything to do with how the 2 earbuds achieve the truly wireless status. Okay, so as I previously mentioned, the earbuds will connect to each other first before they connect to the phone. But that's because that this is connected in a so-called master and slave pair, and in this case the right earbud is the master and the left earbud is the slave. So I'll show you a picture from the Qualcomm website. I believe that the Qualcomm website actually explains this much better than I can. Right, so this is a picture of it. You can actually find it on by just googling Qualcomm True Wireless. Okay, so as I previously mentioned, the master and slave work something like this, in that only the master unit connects to the phone, and any information that you need to get to the left earpiece is actually transmitted to the right earbuds, and the right earbud then have to retransmit the information to the left earbud. So the left earbud in this case only communicates directly to the right earbud, which is the master earbuds. And this retransmitting of the signal actually caused the right earbuds to die much quicker than the left earbuds. So this is actually the reason why everybody's complaining why the right earbud often die first. often goes off first. Second, as for the claimed 4 hours battery life, I don't think KNZ is lying to us when they say that this earbud lasts for 4 hours, but then again, those tests are usually done in a controlled environment such as a lab, which is why, and usually they have specific settings to them, such as 50% volume, both of them connecting separately to the device instead of connecting in stereo mode. Hence, it's not really a surprise that real life performance is actually much lesser than whatever the lab test result is. So unless KNZ gives us the settings for those tests, we won't be able to prove that whether the 4 hours is a truth, or whether they are lying about it. Okay, now we talk about price. I got this for about $74, and right now if you were to go to Indiegogo, you'll find them available for about $74 US, another $10 if you include shipping. And at $84, I think that is actually dangerously close to other competitors in the market. Anchor Liberty Lite is selling for about $65 on Amazon. Apple AirPods sells for about $80 on Amazon as well. And if you were to go to Indiegogo, Pet Moose Grow is selling for about $79. But if you actually back them earlier, they were selling for much cheaper, like $29 and $49. And Samsung Galaxy Icon X 2018 sells for about $130 if you if you want to splurge a little more on earbuds. And for all these products that I mentioned, they're actually much more polished than the Soundflux, since they come from a bigger company. And the Icon X even has onboard 4GB of memory that you can use without Bluetooth. But again, this product, all these prices that I mentioned is actually before shipping, so they might cost quite a bit more if you were to include that. And the AirPods actually sells for 2 times more in my country than what I paid for this Soundflux, so the comparison is not really valid to me. Okay, so now, would I recommend this earbud? Yeah, I would actually recommend this earbud, but I also include a caution with it. First off, these earbuds are actual working earbuds. In other words, you can connect them to any Bluetooth device, and you can get them to play music, and the features that they mentioned actually works. But they are not really that polished. In other words, there are a lot of improvement to be made to this earbuds still, and I hope KNZ can support them for at least 1 or 2 more years down the road. So either it's QC or firmware related. It seems that there are still a lot of people complaining about them, despite them shipping the second round already. But there are also a lot of people who are praising these earbuds on those same pages as well. So if you have the spare cash and don't mind waiting potentially until next year to receive your earbuds, I think that this is a decent pair, and yeah, you should try backing this and listen to them yourself. With that said, I come to the end of my review. I hope you find them useful, and if you have any questions, you can ask them below and I'll try to answer. And if you own a pair of Soundflux as well, I'd like to know if you have the same static issue with the mid and vocal range. And I'm gonna do a review on the EZO Air as well, and I'm gonna have a comparison soon-ish for these earbuds, and hopefully I can review them as fast as possible. So again, that's the end of my review. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.